Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have a great show for you today. First, welcome to Crime Talk, where the only thing sharper than the crime is our wit. Today, we've got a lineup juicier than a prison cafeteria orange. First, Kohberger's new digs. That's right, Bryan Kohberger settling into his new home. Spoiler, it's not a cozy Airbnb. The sheer audacity. An Arkansas hiking nightmare ends with a suspect who's been trimmed down to size. Ghislaine's victory lap. Is Ghislaine Maxwell really winning? Or is her ego just writing checks her cell can't cash? Prosecutor's plot twist. Ex-Barry Morphew prosecutor Linda Stanley might swap her rustic cabin for a less scenic cell block view. Guess which Hollywood star traded red carpets for red faces after pleading guilty to a sexual offense? We have this day in legal history. Our legal quote of the day has to deal with, well, internet trolls, and our dumb criminal of the day, because some crooks are so clueless, they make our job too easy. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, and hit that little bell for notifications. And remember, you can check us out anytime on any of your favorite podcasting apps. And I would be remiss if I didn't remind you to go to crimetalksearch.com and sign up for that background subscription service today. When you do, you can do a background search, get the results literally while you wait on anyone here in the United States. That report gets emailed to you, and it's going to have a plethora of information to include the person that you're searching, their social media presence, their email addresses that they use, phone numbers. You're going to find out if they have a criminal history. Do they have liens and judgments against them? Are they married? Are they divorced? Do they have a criminal history? And yes, are they on one of those lists that they are required to report to? Go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up today, and remember, whether you want to do one search or 1,000 searches, you can cancel at any time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to the Bryan Kohberger update. Somebody said, how many times can you slice this pie? Well, we're going to keep slicing as long as there's new information coming forward. So, oh, how the mighty have fallen. Or, Bryan Kohberger's case, how the convicted killer has been unceremoniously shuffled into the lap of luxury known as solitary confinement at the Idaho Maximum Security Institution. Fresh off his life sentences handed down just weeks ago, he's now enjoying the exclusive amenities of J Block, as graciously confirmed by an Idaho Department of Corrections spokesperson. So check this out. Long-term restrictive housing, where Kohberger gets his very own single occupancy suite, a generous 1 hour a day stroll in the fresh air, weather permitting, and the thrill of being escorted everywhere in stylish restraints. Showers every other day, because who needs daily hygiene when you're reflecting on your life's poor choices? But fear not, the perks abound. Access to spiritual enlightenment through religious services, chit-chat via JPay, and the occasional splurge on commissary goodies. J-Block, ever the versatile host, accommodates up to 128 souls across general population, protective custody, restrictive digs, and even death row. Now, the grand location occurred midday on July 29th, barely a week after Judge Hippler decreed 4 back-to-back life terms without a whisper of parole for the gruesome slayings of the University of Idaho students back in November of 2022. Now, Kohberger, in a move that screams strategic genius, opted for a plea deal in early July, dodging the death penalty and a tedious August jury trial in favor of his perpetual time out. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, Bryan Kohberger is settling in. It's not going to be fun. Could you imagine sitting in a little room 23 hours a day, only going out 1 hour per day, and being escorted in shackles everywhere you go? Yes, it's called quality of life, ladies and gentlemen. And guess what? He may have lived, but his quality of life, he is going to wish he were dead. Now, in a delightful post-sentencing flourish, authorities in Moscow unleashed a trove of documents on the quadruple murder, complete with some juicy tidbits from fellow inmates who purportedly crossed paths with him during his pre-prison sojourn. As his new abode, the Idaho Maximum Security Institution debuted in November of 1989. They pride themselves on corralling the state's most charming and unpredictable male guests. Nestled in Kuna, Idaho, with a double fence perimeter joined in razor wire and a state-of-the-art electronic watchdog system, it comfortably holds up to 535 residents. Truly a fortress fit for such distinguished company. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a fun time for him. And on a little more serious note, the Chapin family honored their son, Ethan. Now, the family of Ethan Chapin, one of the victims, obviously, in the murders, has issued a heartfelt statement following the life sentence of Bryan Kohberger. The Chapin family, consisting of the parents, Jim and Stacy, and Ethan's triplets siblings, Maisie and Hunter, opted not to attend Kohberger's sentencing. Instead, they decided to spend the day together at their Priest Lake, Idaho home in honor of their son. Now, in a poignant Instagram post released a week after the sentencing, the Chapins expressed their support for the judicial outcome, noting the entire situation has been a tough pill to swallow, but at the end of the day, we believe the outcome is the right one. Now, the statement was accompanied by cherished family photos reflecting on Ethan's vibrant life and enduring impact. Now, Ethan was only 20 years old and a freshman majoring in sports management at the University of Idaho, and he was remembered as a joyful presence who touched many lives. The family wrote, "From the time you were a baby to when you were dropped off to college, you were an absolute joy and the glue that held our family together. We remember your smile, your laugh, how you kept us in check, and the many ways you brought happiness and light to any situation." Now, the Chapins also expressed gratitude to law enforcement, prosecutors, the University of Idaho staff, the media that supported them through this entire process. They also acknowledged the broader community, including the friends, the extended family, for their support, emphasizing the shared grief of those close to Ethan and his friends. They said that all have suffered severe loss and trauma, and that they will continue to be in awe of their strength. Now, the family statement avoided mentioning Kohberger, directly focusing instead on Ethan's legacy and their commitment to honoring Ethan. They also said, "There would never have been enough time for you. We love you, we miss you, and promise to continue honoring your legacy." Now, like I said, new stuff is dropping. Take a look at this photo, apparently taken of Bryan Kohberger shortly after his parents' home was arrested. I mean, look, he's in his comfy pants and his comfy sweatshirt. It's almost like he knew he was going someplace. No, just kidding. They probably let him change into something a little more comfortable from his sleeping attire when he was arrested. Now, I guess maybe if they will let Bryan Kohberger keep any of his little mementos from the case, which they're not, he could take this picture, put it up on the cell, along with the ID cards of the two ladies that he worked with back in Pennsylvania, that he just happened to keep their ID cards in his drawer in a pair of gloves in a box. Nope, nothing weird or creepy about that. I am glad that Mr. Kohberger will be in his little cell, probably about a 6x8. It is all going to be comfortable for him for sure. But guess what? You're going to be able to be inspected at any time at the sheer whim of the Idaho Department of Corrections. Can you just imagine it? Can you just imagine it? Next on the docket, the sheer audacity. The Arkansas hiking horror ends with a trimmed suspect. The irony of it all. Andrew James McGann, the paragon of poor timing, gets nabbed right in the middle of a haircut at Lupita's beauty salon and barbershop. Here's how it goes down. The 28-year-old, clad in a light blue polo and khakis, lounging under a cape like he's just another guy sprucing up for the weekend. Then bam, the Arkansas State Police swoop in, yank off the barber's cape, slap on the cuffs, and haul him away without so much as a peep of resistance. Patrons and stylists, well, they just stare in stunned silence, probably wondering if the next time comes with a side of drama. The spectacle, caught on surveillance and now etched in infamy, ties directly directly to the brutal double slaying at the Devil's Den State Park. But let's pivot to the real heart-wrencher here. Clinton David Brink, who was 43, and his wife, Kristen Amanda Brink, who was 41, turned a family hike into a desperate bid for heroism. These poor souls, fresh from relocating from South Dakota to Arkansas, were out exploring the Ozark Mountains rugged trails on July 26 with their 2 young girls, aged 7 and 9. And what would have been a wholesome adventure developed into a nightmare, fueled when they crossed paths with McGann, allegedly a complete stranger, with a knife in hand. The police paint a gut-wrenching picture. Clinton gets attacked first, stabbed in what officials dub a completely random frenzy. Kristen, bless her fierce maternal instincts, doesn't bolt for the hills. No, she hustles her daughters to safety, stashing them away from the chaos before circling back like a one-woman rescue squad to aid her husband. Tragically, that's where she meets her end, stabbed alongside her husband. The girls, physically unscathed, but undoubtedly scared for life, now in the care of relatives. And it's stuff of parental nightmares, sacrificing everything to shield your kids from a monster who, as it turns out, had no beef with anyone in particular. How about that for selfless? In a world gone mad, these parents emerged as the unsung guardians, their final act a sarcastic slap at fate's cruel randomness. Now, McGann, for his part, didn't exactly play hard to get. He got arrested about 4:57 on July 30th, and he now faces 2 counts of capital murder, with his counts to appear in court today. It is reported, but we'll give him the presumption of innocence, that he confessed. DNA from the scene matched this, shocker, and a search of his digs turned up incriminating evidence. Oh, and he's picked up some injuries during the scuffle as well. A little poetic justice, perhaps. Now, the police emphasized that the randomness, no prior connection, no targeting the kids, just a lone wolf with a blade. Over 500 tips poured in, but they're confident he is the only suspect. Until, of course, the true crime world gets a hold of it, and I'm sure they will soon say he's been framed. Now for the suspect's backstory, because nothing screams trustworthy like a former teacher with spotless adult rap sheet until you dig a little bit. Now, McGann's taught in an Oklahoma district until May, passing all those rigorous background checks like a pro. He resigned amid whispers of classroom mismanagement and some dodgy judgment, though an investigation cleared him outright of any misconduct towards any student. Now, a parent's complaint from 2022 flagged inappropriate vibes around young girls, leading to the administration to put him on leave and his eventual exit. He was sent to start fresh at the Springdale Public School in Arkansas, but never got the chance. Now, lucky for the kids there, as the superintendent noted with palpable relief, extending sympathies to the Brinks while keeping mum on the details. Now, in the end, the Devil's Den, a sprawling 2,500-acre haven of trails and rocks about 140 miles northwest of Little Rock, remains tainted by the senseless saga. The trailhead still shuttered as the probe wraps up, but one thing is clear amid the sarcasm of a haircut interrupted arrest: it's the Brinks' valiant scramble to save their daughters that cuts deepest. A bitter reminder of humanity's highs and lows in the face of complete and utter random violence. Those parents are doing what parents do, ladies and gentlemen. They protect their children. Those people are heroes. They are saints. And McGann's entitled to the presumption of innocence, but the worst things should probably happen to him. That is the horror of everybody. Somebody attacking your family for no apparent reason whatsoever. Unbelievable. Next, is Ghislaine Maxwell really winning? Well, there's been talk that maybe she's on a winning streak, but let's just see if she's living the dream. While the rest of us are slaving away, the convicted sex trafficker has apparently upgraded her prison digs from a low security joint in Florida to what's essentially been coined as a country club in Texas. Now, the federal prison camp, Bryan, where Maxwell was stealthily shipped on Thursday, is the kind of place that makes you wonder if justice is just a buzzword the government throws around for kicks. Now, Epstein's victims, understandably, They're not happy. And who could blame them? Now, the New York Sun broke the news that Maxwell, serving a 20-year sentence for her role in Jeffrey Epstein's horrific crimes, had been relocated to a minimum security prison that sounds more like a wellness retreat. We're talking softball fields, pickleball courts, and wait for it, crochet kits available at the commissary. Because nothing screams rehabilitation like a predator stitching a cozy blanket. Annie and Maria Farmer, alongside Virginia Jeffries' family, didn't mince words in a statement. They said, this is the justice system failing victims right before our eyes. No kidding. A sexual predator who assaulted minors now gets to live in what prison consultants Justin Paperney calls Disneyland. Razor wire, fences, those are so last season. At Bryan, you can practically stroll the grounds and nobody bats an eye. Now, Maxwell's lawyer, a guy by the name of David Oscar Marcus, confirmed the move but didn't bother explain why his client is suddenly getting the VIP treatment. Rumor has it that she is pit stopped at a federal prison in Oakdale, Louisiana, before landing at her new place in Texas, where she's rubbing elbows with fellow white-collar celebs like Theranos fraudster Elizabeth Holmes and former Real Housewife Jen Shah. What's next? Perhaps a prison podcast hosted by the trio? Now, this is apparently a pretty big upgrade, and it is possibly a reward for Maxwell's recent chat with the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche about Jeffrey Epstein's dirty laundry, because spilling the beans on your dead ex should totally earn you a pickleball court. Well, the victim's attorneys dropped a chilling reminder. Quote, remember what happened to Epstein when they moved him from high protective custody to a lower security level? End quote. Obviously, Epstein himself hanged himself. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Say no more, say no more. Back in 2019, under suspicious circumstances, and Maxwell's mysterious transfer handled by the Federal Bureau of Prisons instead of the usual United States Marshal Service has raised a few eyebrows. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Say no more, say no more. Anyway, the Farmer sisters and Jeffries families and others have slammed the moves as preferential treatment, and, well, they may not be wrong. While Maxwell's new home offers some email access, TV rooms, and even the chance to snag an illegal cell phone, her victims are left grappling with trauma and a justice system that seems to have a soft spot for well-connected predators. And here's a little bit of the cherry on top. Maxwell's team is angling for a pardon from President Trump, who hasn't ruled it out. Her lawyers are dangling the promise of open and honest testimony to Congress in exchange for immunity, though the attorney insists she'll plead the fifth without it. Now, last week, Maxwell spent hours dishing to Justice Department officials about Epstein, with the Attorney General flying to Florida for the big scoop. Now, Marcus, the attorney, claims that she was grilled about 100 different individuals, but don't hold your breath for transparency. The Justice Department already nixed releasing more Epstein files, despite earlier promises. So is Maxwell winning? If by winning you mean swapping a low security prison for a place where she can jog, garden, and maybe teach a parenting class, because sure, that's not ironic at all, right? She's killing it. But let's be real. She's still a convicted predator, and no amount of commissary makeup or relaxed visitation rules are going to change that. The real losers here are the Epstein victims, who have to watch their abusers get a golden ticket while justice takes a long, luxurious nap. Ladies and gentlemen, release the files. If there's nothing in there, so be it. Let the people decide. Release it. Let the chips fall where they may. Now, let's just say I've talked to people that were very close to the Ghislaine Maxwell case. It's my understanding, obviously, she said nothing went wrong. She never did anything wrong. So I'm not sure what she could spill for the Justice Department these days. However, apparently there may be something left to tell. And who's going to corroborate it? Jeffrey Epstein? Next on the docket, remember the ex-DA Linda Stanley? Well, she might trade her comfy cabin for a cell. Another example of how the mighty have fallen, or in Linda Stanley's case, how the former 11th Judicial district attorney might soon be swapping her rustic Guffey hideout for a less cozy courtroom showdown. The once gun-toting MAGA darling now faces the delightful prospect of an arrest warrant for contempt of court. Why, you ask? Apparently, responding to legal obligations is too much paperwork for our former top prosecutor. Now, Stanley's latest misadventure stems from her charming habit of treating public funds like her personal piggy bank. Now, earlier this year, Custer, Chaffee, Park and Fremont counties, the very ones she was supposed to serve, dragged her to court siphoning for her siphoning of $110,000 to fend off her disbarment. Well, spoiler alert, she didn't show up to defend herself. Shocking, right? The result? A default judgment. And it slapped her with a bill of $307,000. And you'd think a former DA, no better than to ghost a lawsuit, but Stanley's clearly playing by her own rules. Fast forward to May 21st, when a process server tracked her down at her cabin because, yes, despite local gossip about her skipping town, she still holed up there. The server handed her written interrogatories, those pesky little questions debtors are required to answer, and Stanley's response, crickets. She had 21 days to comply, but evidently decided silence was her best defense. Now let's bring in the judge, Judge Lauren Swan, who clearly had enough of Stanley's Vanishing Act. On July 1st, Swan issued an order that's less an invitation and more a get here or else ultimatum. Stanley's due in court at 4:30 on August 4th to explain why she shouldn't be held in contempt. The order's bolded warning doesn't mince words, miss the date, and a warrant for her arrest could be next. Yawn, I'm sure. Just another day in the life of Linda Stanley, right? Well, let's rewind to how we got here. Now, Stanley rode into office in 2020 on the wave of MAGA fervor, despite 3 out of 4 Republican sheriffs in her district begging voters to pick literally anyone else. They warned she'd be a walking disaster of justice, and surprised, they nailed it. But Stanley's campaign, heavy on gun-waving photo ops and light on actual qualifications, swept her to victory. Her marketing screamed pew pew, louder than Law and Order. Oh, and those claims about being a seasoned law officer and deputy DA, total fiction, courtesy of her own sister's expose and some local newspapers fact-checking. Now, Stanley's tenure was a masterclass in bungling. Her pièce de résistance, the Barry Morphew murder trial, which she spectacularly fumbled. And when the presiding judge dared to sanction her for forgetting to disclose her expert witnesses, oops, Stanley didn't reflect or regroup. Nope, she allegedly consulted a gaggle of true crime YouTubers to launch a baseless criminal probe into the judge, because nothing screams professionalism like crowdsourcing legal vendettas from internet sleuths. That stunt, among others, earned her a one-way ticket to disbarment. Now, will Stanley show up on August 4th to face the music, or will she keep playing hide and seek with the law? Well, guess what? We'll be watching. Stay tuned as we will see what happens next. Next on the docket, guess which Hollywood actor just pled guilty to a sexual offense? Well. Who's stealing the spotlight for all the wrong reasons? Hollywood's eccentric granddad, Gary Busey. He's now 81 and still stirring up trouble. And he pled to a single count of 4th-degree criminal sexual conduct after a little too much fan interaction at a 2022 horror convention in New Jersey. So, on July 31st, Busey beamed into court via Zoom, because nothing screams modern justice like a virtual hearing, before Judge Gwendolyn Blue, who wasn't buying what Busey's team was selling. She'd already swatted down their desperate attempts to toss the case out like yesterday's tabloid trash. The scene of the crime, the Monster Mania convention at the Camden Doubletree Hotel on August 13th of 2020, where Busey apparently mistaken himself for a handsy villain from one of his B movies, admitted to inappropriately touching a woman. Not an accidental touching, he clarified to the judge, as if anyone thought he was just clumsily reaching for his autograph pen. Sporting a hearing aid cranked to 11, Busey still struggled to catch the courtroom chatter. Perhaps the sound of his own infamy was drowning it out. Now, in a deal sweeter than convention swag, prosecutors agreed to drop the other charges, 3 more counts of 4th-degree criminal sexual conduct and 1 attempted creepiness, all tied to Busey's overzealous photo op antics. Now, earlier that day, Busey's lawyer, Blair Zwillman, tried to spin the narrative, whining that the investigation was shoddier than a low-budget slasher flick and that police skipped interviewing key witnesses. Now, prosecutors, a guy by the name of Keith Carmy, wasn't having it, coolly pointing out that the evidence wouldn't have saved Busey's hide and that the grand jury got the full scoop and all of the witness statements. So Gary, here's the plot twist. Maybe stick to signing headshots next time. Keep your hands to yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Number 1 rule, keep your hands to yourself. Next, on this day in legal history, 1842, August 1st, 1842, the Tariff Act became effective. It increased penalties for smuggling and tax evasion, empowering U.S. Customs Services to prosecute violators. And this fiscal legislation aimed to curb rampant smuggling during economic tensions, enhancing federal criminal enforcement. On this day in 1885, the Major Crimes Act was enacted. That's right, Congress passed the Major Crime Act following the ex parte Crow Dog, making certain crimes by Native Americans on reservations because they're federal offenses now. And then on August 1st, 1798, the Sedition Act enforcement begins. That's right, the Sedition Act, part of the effect was criminalizing false statements against the federal government. It led to prosecutions of journalists and politicians, sparking early debate over free speech and federal overreach in criminal law. Now, most of that was found unconstitutional, or it sunshined as well, but thank goodness you should be allowed to criticize your government. Next, on August 1st, 1980, the federal appointment of an FBI director. That's right, President Jimmy Carter appointed William H. Webster as FBI director effective August 1, who prioritized organized crime and public corruption investigations, leading to high-profile RICO prosecutions in the 1980s. Next, ladies and gentlemen, our quote of the day, well, it's regarding internet trolls. Doesn't really say who said it, but I'm telling you that up front. Trolls thrive in the shadow of the internet, quick to criticize and condemn, yet absent when action is required. Their words are loud, but their deeds are silent. That's pretty interesting. How about another one? Arguing with anonymous strangers on the internet is a sucker's game because they almost always turn out to be, or to be indistinguishable from, self-righteous 16-year-olds possessing infinite amounts of free time. Goes to Neil Stevenson. And finally today, our dumb criminal of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, gather round for the latest episode of our Dumb Criminal of the Day, starring none other than Wyoming's finest export, a guy by the name of Kevin Sinning, Sinning, a 29-year-old scholar of stupidity who decided that the Buffalo Niagara International Airport was his personal demolition derby. And on July 28th, 2025, at the unholy hour of 1 a.m., this inebriated genius hijacked a golf cart and embarked on a joyride so chaotic it deserves its own action movie. Drunk and Dumber. That's right, the airport apocalypse, I guess we should call it. So here we go. A bleary-eyed Sinning, clearly having sampled every spirit in the airport bar, spots an unattended electric golf cart and thinks, why walk when I can wreak havoc? With the grace of a rhinoceros on rollerblades, he commandeers the vehicle and floors it into a moving walkway, turning it into his own twisted version of Mario Kart. Glass panels smashed. Airport workers, please, ignored. Common sense nowhere to be found. Witnesses, jaws on the floor, recorded this masterclass in more honoree as Sinning plowed through the terminal, weaving around the wet floor signs like they were mere suggestions. He's drunk, one bystander astutely observed, earning a gold star for stating the obvious. Undeterred by shouts of sanity, Sinning doubled down, steering the cart down another walkway, leaving a trail of shattered glass, mangled metal, and existential dread in its wake. Oh, blank, he's going down the other one, someone yelled, as if narrating a low-budget disaster flick. The cart squeezed tighter than Sinning's grip on his last shred of dignity, bounced along, its tires flirting with the walkway's rail, while a haze, possibly from the sheer audacity of it all, filled the air. Airport staff screamed for him to stop, but Sinning lost his boozy bliss, cruising on a one-man parade of pandemonium. Now, the Niagara Frontier Travel Authority later confirmed what everyone already knew. Sinning was visibly intoxicated, a phrase that barely captures the level of soused that he must have been to think that this was a good idea. The damage tally? Well, a trashed walkway, obliterated glass panels, and a golf cart that's probably in therapy. Naturally, Sinning's stunt went viral, racking up over 9 million views on TikTok because nothing says learning experience like internet infamy. When the dust settled, or rather the glass shards, officials cupped Sinning and slapped him with a laundry list of charges: criminal mischief, disorderly conduct, criminal possession of stolen property, criminal nuisance, and grand larceny. And if there was an award for the most creative way to ruin your life in one night, Sinning would be clutching the trophy. Now, Sinning's now cooling his heels, like regretting the moment he thought, one more shot, then I'll drive. Here's to hoping that this is the last we hear of his vehicular adventures, unless Buffalo's airport starts renting out golf carts for the next viral stunt. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for today. Hope you enjoyed the show. Had to come from the other side of the state to get back to do the show. I do hope you enjoyed it. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk. And remember, Constitution matters.